pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We were calling the November 4th, 2021 Village Board meeting to order. Roll call shows Pat is excused, otherwise everyone else is in attendance. 4, agenda changes. Are there any? If not, we'll move to 5, consent agenda. 8, October 21st, 2021, regular board meeting minutes. B, licenses and permits. There are none. C, presentation of accounts and other claims against the village. Are there any questions? Other than that, I would need a motion otherwise.
I have one question about the invoices. What's the Outagamie chaplain program? The county chaplain program?
Yes, we have chaplains that are assigned to each municipality in case of fatalities, due to car accidents, injuries due to officers. They basically go based off of population, so we pay $200 a year. Grand Chute may pay $1,600 a year.
Okay.
So,
I just hadn't seen it before, so.
yeah, no.
If it's only a yearly bill, that's.
Yeah, we've been doing it every year since like 2015, I think we started the program.
Okay,
Thank you.
would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda.
Is there a second?
No.
Might be a piece.
I'll second. Thank you.
Roll call, Peter?
Aye.
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 Alright.
Aye.
Motion carried. 6, pre-registered citizens to be heard. Nothing. Okay, we'll move to 7, committee reports. A, library board. And,
I can take this.
Okay.
It's back here. The library board met on Tuesday. There is currently an open seat on the library board. We've also been struggling to have quorum lately. And the library board approved the 2022 budget. So kind of the process of that is that the library board, being separate from the village board, has say over our finances, so the library board has to approve our budget separately, and then it's included in the village board budget packet. So then when that's approved, it's done. So they approved the 2022 budget, which can then be amended based on village board approval in December. We also discussed benefits on my end, and then staff wages as well.
any questions for Ally? Okay, we'll move to 8, unfinished business from previous meetings, and there's none. 9, new business. A, Z-3-21, rezoning of Bethlehem property.
So, the Planning and Zoning Commission met, to discuss the rezoning of Bethlehem's, 752 Grandview, and approved, or recommended for approval, the rezoning from R1 to PI, because it's currently in a residential district. You can't have signage, which was part of the issue they were having, because the next part in the conditional use is a sign that they wanted. So basically it's similar to what we did with this property and the school. So basically it allows them to be, same thing, conditional use in order to get signage, increasing in signage, any additions, or if you're putting in a fence, it's on the property line. Yeah, so there wasn't any objections to this at all during the meeting for the public hearing.
Any questions?
I'll make a motion to approve Z-3-21, rezoning of Bethlehem property.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. B, CU-1-21, signed for Bethlehem property.
So this was in your packet as well. The conditional use that was recommended by the Planning and Zoning Commission was just to, I guess, help with the neighboring properties because it is in a residential area, to have the sign be limited in light at night, and to have limited flashing between the slides. So that's why the conditional use is to have the sign turned down at night, down to 750 nits at dusk, turned off overnight, and then the time between slides to be at least 2 seconds.
Were they given overnight, were they given a time that it should be turned off?
Not necessarily. I think because of most of the time they said they wanted to have it off at 9 or 10, but there are times like they have mass on certain holidays that they like to have later that they would want the sign on for, but it would still have to be at that 750 nits. They talked separately with all the residents that were here, and all the residents were here after the church left. I told them that if they had any issues, they could contact me, and they said the church has been great to work with, and they have no worries really on the lighting.
And if there's an issue later, we can change this and put in a time?
Yes,
Okay.
I believe so, right? Yeah. So,
I don't know.
So you're just looking for a motion to approve CU-1-21?
Yes.
I will make a motion to approve CU-1-21 to grant a conditional use permit for an illuminated sign for Bethlehem Lutheran Church.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. C, further discussion for preliminary budget.
okay.
Are there more questions on the budget?
Otherwise, I can continue on to the capital projects portion of it. So, I guess the capital projects, I guess the budget is kind of confusing to look at necessarily. It might be easier, there's 2 legal sheets. One has in color, and that's from this year's capital projects for where we're at this year with it, by project and expense out of each project. You can see at the bottom that there's $226,000 that wasn't expensed, that we are moving over into the next year, to hit the amount that we need to with the loan we took out. Basically, most of those expenses that weren't used was was Miller Park, with not having that bidded out until today. So that is why there is such a large excess on that year's budget for the capital projects. So the projects that we're looking at next year are listed on the black and white sheet. So the admin software, Badger Books, I guess, is election software, which we can, if you want, we can kind of go into more detail on in a future agenda item in next week, or at the next meeting if you would like. The other thing was the PD server, which we kind of wanted to get your input on, I guess, if you wanted to talk with Todd, our IT people. If you had any questions on it, I think it would be useful to use you for that. The Green Bin Gazebo, that's for down at Otter Creek. Black Otter
Park.
Black Otter Park, yes. So, phase 1 of Miller Park, which is gonna be presented tonight, and that's, I think the public works truck, you're still kind of debating on what type to get. So he doesn't have that nailed down yet. Is there any questions on the capital or budget in general as of today? We didn't have the debt or the TIDs yet. The debt's done. It's just something that doesn't have much on it, that we will present at the final meeting anyway. It's just the same old debt schedule that we've had. So, the TIDs are we're still waiting on the numbers for the final allocations for the increments. So, that'll be coming soon. But nothing big in either of those. They're pretty much staying the same.
So what was the squad, police outlay squad equipment increase?
On the capital project tracking sheet or the
Yeah.
actual budget?
On the capital project worksheet here. It's up to, it jumped from 42 to 54,000.
Oh, that's including, that's all public work. I mean, that's all police stuff, so that's the server in there as well. So that's why on the long legal sheets, it's separated out. So it's at 43,000 for the SUV.
So right here, Jim, in these sheets, it's, yep, at the top there, you'll see that it's separated.
And the, yeah, non-color one.
Okay, that's the 42,000, yeah, that's the 20, oh, this is 2021. But the 2022 proposed is 54,000.
That, in the actual budget line item, yes, because it has all police expenditures for capital under there. That includes this server. But
Oh,
if you go
okay, that
through,
includes the server, okay, sorry.
yeah,
Where am I gonna see the server on here?
so it's on here, on the far right, PD server money. On the black and white one,
At the top.
Oh, on the second page, there's nothing on it.
yeah, the one that doesn't have the green line in there. I guess that's the only color part. Which isn't actually quoted at that much right now, but we do have that on there as a buffer. So it's quoted right now at around 9, or 10, I guess, yeah.
Oh, what's the title on it here? I don't see anything. Oh, there, okay.
It's
there's-
towards the end, sorry.
PD
Towards the
server,
end.
PD server money.
You see
Yeah.
brush
Okay.
cutter?
Oh,
It's still left
I
the
was
brush
like,
cutter.
I skimmed right by that one, I didn't, okay, sorry.
No problem.
Okay.
It's in between my stuff.
What's that?
I said it's in between my stuff.
Yeah, it does- and the title threw me for, I don't know why I read past it, but.
And I'm sorry, Nathan, when did you say the TID information would be available?
Probably at the final meeting. If you want, I can get that to you ahead of time.
Not necessary, just curious if we're gonna have it before that.
This is
final, do we have that final, it's a budget,
That's what's gonna be coming up in the agenda to set that hearing, so that's when it would happen. If you want, I can get it to you ahead of time, nothing's changing expense-wise, it's just gonna be the general expenses of my pay and Eller's,
Do
and
not-
then the income.
do not expend the effort, just at that meeting would be fine. I was just curious if we'd have it in time for that.
I got nothing else. I'll talk to you about the server stuff, and
Thank you.
I'll try to hold down my lunch when I look at those numbers.
Does anyone have any questions? Or are we good to move on?
Okay.
Okay. D is set public hearing date for 2022 budget.
We're looking at December 2nd, the next village board meeting for the public hearing. It has to be published, the budget has to be published 15 days ahead of that, so. I mean, the public hearing notice has to be published
So,
15 days before the public hearing, so.
so just, doing our meeting is at 6, or you're looking at maybe, what time, 5:30? 6?
We usually do it in the
At
middle.
the meeting.
Normally at 6.
Okay.
December 2nd's good then with
December
everyone?
2nd?
Yep.
It's a regular board meeting night.
Right.
Okay,
Okay.
then we'll move to ER-21-21, resolution for bonus.
This is a resolution that, to, I guess, give the current employees who have kind of been here a bonus to, as a incentive basically for staying. We can fund it directly through this year's, so it doesn't even have to tie into next year's budget, from the savings that we had through turnover this year. So, it's a way to hopefully get employees to retain their employment here.
How are you gonna allocate that out?
Basically, it's a flat rate
Oh.
amongst full-time and then a flat rate amongst part-time.
So if I'm full-time and I've been here 2 years and there's
Doesn't
another,
matter.
Flat rate.
Flat rate.
We're doing
We
it
figured
at-
because longevity already does that for those people who have been here longer. They already get, most of them get longevity anyway after 5 years, so to have it tied to anything, it's just nicer. I think people enjoy it more when there's no one who gets more, you know, across the board. So that's why, that's the way we allocate it.
I'll make a motion to approve R-21-21.
I'll second. Roll call, Peter?
aye.
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 Aye. Okay, motion carried. F, awarding of bid for Miller Park reconstruction phase 1.
Alright. So, October 28th, McMahon received bids, McMahon Associates received 2 bids for the Miller Park project. What we are looking at doing is expansion of the parking lot, upgrading of the parking lot, tennis court, basketball court, and in our kind of in our thought pattern, putting in pickleball court.
we talked about that.
So this is something that, this can come to fruition. I think pickleball obviously is getting so popular that we have the room to do it. We did have to expand the area just a little bit in order to put in there. The only thing that we aren't gonna do, obviously, in phase one here, because of what the costs are projected here, is the pavilion. And I think that'll come at a later date. We'll have to see, what we're gonna do with that. So that'll probably be phase two, potentially, or phase three of Miller. So, two bids came in, MCC, yeah, 350,000, 860.45, and Northeast Asphalt at 423,656. Yeah, there's quite a bit of difference between the two. If you look at the numbers on the bid tally itself, they're close and they're not close. It's in the line items in there where when you look at the mobilization, that's huge. So to pick apart, we really couldn't red flag either one of them or say that, nah, we're gonna spend 400,000 because 350-some thousand, these guys aren't gonna be able to perform, so on and so forth. We couldn't find any red flags in regards to that. So my recommendation is to MCC for 350,000, 860.45. We do have budgeted 380,000 for this project. So we have approximately $30,000 that we would have set aside for change orders or something. You guys see something different that you want, whatever, that we can do, you know, potentially a change order to have it done. So, did come in higher than expected, from what I understand, unfortunately.
Do you have a drawing of this?
Yeah.
It's not, I don't see it in the packet,
No,
so
so
I'd like to see what you're doing.
this
Does anybody
here,
else have
and I
this?
can,
No,
Oh,
you can go ahead and pass that around. This is kind of the nuts and bolts of the project here.
how many parking stalls? Do you know?
That was 30.
isn't it 30 something?
Yeah, I don't remember.
It hasn't changed since
The
we,
parking hasn't
No.
changed, but if we're adding pickleball, so is that eating? So right now we have 2 tennis courts, right? So we're gonna keep 1 tennis court, then basketball goes in 1.
yeah,
So are we
shrunk-
adding off to the side and?
No,
So-
we shrunk the basketball court size. We didn't need it as long as we had it.
Correct, it's actually regulation. So when you look at the regulation of the tennis court and the basketball court,
So-
two
so
different ones.
Walk me through, right now, there's 2 tennis courts, you know, right next to
Mhm.
each other.
That'll help.
So when you look at that, there's a tennis court.
Pickleball is going on the edge of the.
Yeah.
It's
Correct.
flop.
Well-
We're flipping it.
What we're gonna do is actually the pickleball court will be on the parking
side.
lot side versus the back side of the basketball court. Basketball court will be on the back side of the parking lot. Pickleball will be at the front. Okay, and then your tennis court obviously is on the side of that. Your tennis court is longer than your basketball court, per regulations. So we were able to just tweak it a little bit and get the pickleball court in at the same square as the tennis court.
Got it.
So it worked out pretty good, actually.
Adding a fence in the middle of it, separate.
Yeah, fencing is astronomical in my opinion, but that's what the going costs are, $95 a foot. You know, it's crazy, but it is something that's necessary,
Yeah, you have to separate them.
that you have to.
Was the 380 supposed to include the pavilion?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Unfortunately,
unfortunately.
it was very under budgeted, unfortunately.
What's a rough estimate for a pavilion?
Depends on what you're looking for.
Quarter
What's
Huh?
that?
$250,000.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
think that's the number we came up with.
Quarter.
If you're looking at, addition of storage,
And we budgeted
Restroom.
380 for the whole thing, and then the pavilion's a
Yeah.
quarter?
well,
250?
we budgeted 90 for the tennis courts. So-
Oh, yeah, that wasn't gonna happen.
Right, so it, yeah.
It really
Where's
depends on
the-
what you want for
Is the road across the top of this here?
yes.
Okay.
With this design, and I'll look when I see it, but does that prohibit any equipment from going back to possibly create a walkway from the
No.
Main Street parking lot by the Opera House? Okay.
I thought about
It's the
that
same
too, and that,
footprint for the tennis courts.
It's different, but I just wanna make sure we're not prohibiting any kind of excavating equipment to be able to go and create like a stairs or path or whatever.
No.
Okay.
No.
I
That's
That's
something
just
we'll,
the tennis court
That we
picture, it's
have.
not the whole park.
yeah.
yeah, so you still have the ball diamond that's left in there. I thought about that too, but then I started thinking that you actually, because I had to deal with, when I put in cameras at Otter Creek, because somebody fell down the stairs in the back, that might potentially, putting an access through there might potentially end up being more of a liability than a value from where I think where you're thinking about
From
is
the
a lot
parking
to
lot.
come down.
Depending on
If you
how-
think about it in the winter time, somebody's gotta maintain it,
Well,
somebody's gotta shovel it, somebody's
there-
gotta salt it, and
We'll look at
somebody
that
slips and
when,
falls and it's.
that'll be another phase in the connection to the Opera House.
Yeah,
Realistically, we'll see how this works out, potentially if pickleball.
But if we need additional parking, there's that parking, but,
Yeah.
people are still gonna walk down a grassy slippery hill too.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but then it wouldn't, yeah, my thought process when I worked all the way through that was if we didn't put something in there, then it's not
And
something
force
that.
them to go down the
It doesn't
sidewalk, and
encourage
that's
somebody
their
to
choice,
walk
and
down
that's their
there,
problem.
and then, then you don't necessarily have the liability that, oh, somebody didn't shovel it well enough, or it's not well enough lit, or it's had ice on it,
Where
or.
the sidewalks have to be, so it's
Yeah.
already.
Yeah, something to consider later. I'm
Oh,
just
Yeah,
curious
yeah.
if this would-
Absolutely.
if this would prohibit from getting equipment. kind of-
No, 'cause, the long range plan of this, and this is my understanding from gathering information, and obviously you guys have been working on this for a while, that's gonna tie in our trail system.
Yeah.
Through where you're talking about, so no, that's still in the thoughts.
Yeah,
Long range plan here, looking at that, absolutely. No,
Does
great
this-
plan, so.
I definitely had the same thought too,
Mhm.
I was thinking about it.
Mhm.
Does this bid include any storm runoff ponds, any
No,
retention?
nothing is needed there. Currently, we have drain tile within, the majority of the area, to be honest with you. That's something that they've been doing over the last 3 years.
Well, there's a
4
storm
years.
drain that's going in the center of the cement that'll go out towards the
Yeah, you got that creek that surrounds
Oh,
that
yeah.
park,
so
so.
that's what, rather than initially, part of the increase in cost was initially, they wanted our personnel to do that, and we don't have time to do projects. I mean, we have to do maintenance so that our parks look nice.
Need a
So-
bigger plan. Show you, not much new structure going in, just one in the parking lot.
So there's no infrastructure here as far as future amenities like water?
We're tying a water and electrical outside of the right-hand corner. I guess, if you had a map,
Parking lot.
right outside the parking lot on the other side where, by the baseball diamond, we're just stubbing it out there so that it can go anywhere on that side it needs to.
Okay,
So
So-
instead of drilling it or anything like that, we're gonna have a camera, some kind of casing, PVC, whatever it is that we're able to put our lines through our electric lines, water lines, whatever it's gonna be. So that's gonna be already installed
Waiting for
under
equipment
that. Yeah, so you just tap into that versus tear out.
again.
Yeah. Exactly.
Peter, you're thinking splash pad
yeah.
access, yeah.
We talked about the splash pad. I just want to make sure that we're not doing all this construction and all of a sudden, 2 years from now or 3 years from now, we have to rip it up to put in
Right.
the infrastructure.
No way to heat for that to happen.
I
To be
would,
honest
I
with you,
would
yeah,
hope.
and I don't wanna see that. No,
Okay.
this is, hopefully, we'll have everything in place so that never happens, to be honest with you.
Okay, good enough. So you're looking for a motion,
Yes,
or is there more
Yes.
discussion?
Motion.
is everyone good? Then we would need the motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the bid from MCC for the Miller Park reconstruction phase 1 in the amount of $350,860.45.
I'll agree.
Okay, roll call, Peter.
Aye.
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 Motion carried. Okay, then we Go to G, four-way stop on Nash and Oak Highway L.
I'm sure this is pretty commonly known spot that is horrible, for driving. The safety there is horrible, for the function of the road for anyone outside of this area who didn't grow up here. So we wanna put in a four-way stop there, make it safer.
Do we have, accident issues?
We don't, however, we have a lot of close calls. When I'm monitoring traffic in the morning, I get a lot of this from the drivers, or better yet, they're coming off of, they're heading, you too, huh? They're heading, north on Nash Street, and you can tell that they're out of towners because they have no idea. They're stopping, and there's no stop sign, and then it turns into mass chaos as far as who's gonna go next, and then it's like, oh shit, I don't have a stop sign, and then they gun it. So, so there's squealing of brakes, buses have almost been hit. I've seen students being
Plus that right turn, no stop there.
right turn, no stop. The crossing guard is like hurrying the children across the road. I've seen a couple of children almost be struck by the crossing guard because they're coming southbound on that, around that corner, and it's a blind spot. You don't see anything.
Where the
There's-
crosswalk is
right.
pretty crazy, yeah.
Right, the other thing is there's a huge blind spot, when you are coming off of Oak, coming up to that whole intersection there by the cemetery. It's very, very difficult, to see. You actually, when you come up to that intersection, you have to kind of turn your car to the right, the tires to the right, to be able to see down M, because if you're going this way, everything is blocked by your side portions of your car, so.
Just fine until you have a right
I'm
turn
for-
person.
I'm all for a four-way stop.
So this got brought up, I think, as a future agenda item at one point. So because it involves a county road, what do we need to do as a board to request this, or is this?
As long as you guys are, like, approve it, we can go to Dean and say, we want it changed.
I've already talked to Dean. Dean said he needs the approval of this board in order to go ahead with it. He said he drives this quite often, almost every night on the way home from work. He said he really can't understand why the village has put up with this as long as we have. Then he has to, once we say we are in approval of it, then he takes it to his board, and then it goes forward from there. So,
Question I have is, what about where you can turn north on Oak, there's that yield sign? Does that stay a yield, or does that go to, is that also a stop? Because it has that turn lane to the right
Yeah,
there.
That would be a stop.
That would be a stop as well.
So my issue with it is that, I mean, I grew up in Hortonville. It's been that way for more than 40 years, at least. And that's why the first question is, are there accidents? Because if you change this, you're gonna get some phone calls. You're gonna get a lot of phone calls, and they're gonna say, why, was there an accident there? Why did you change it? Have we had people get killed? Did we get anybody get run over? Do we have any substantial reason? I understand it, for out-of-towners, it's confusing.
I've
But
grown up here too,
but
Jim.
it is, you are gonna get a ton of people
I've nearly
that are
been
gonna
hit
call you
at
up
this
and say,
intersection on
But
the
hey,
at
bike.
the same time, wouldn't you rather be
Why?
proactive than reactionary? If
well, there's a difference between that and,
Right.
you know, you're being proactive for something that's been there for 40 years that we don't have any accidents. We don't have any accidents. So being proactive on something, saying, well, you know, maybe in the next 40 years we'll have accidents, that's not being
So,
proactive.
I'm gonna throw in, one, we have a lot more summer traffic happening with baseball tournaments. Second, you have a lot more kids and people driving and dropping their kids off to school than you have in the last 40 years. Previously, it was just the buses, and you have a lot more kids walking because of the busing shortage. So I think you're gonna be hard pressed. I mean, I can tell you that I drive that route every single morning, and it's a hot mess. And if someone's coming in down from that cemetery, now you've made it a 5-way intersection, and it's really bad. Really bad.
Yep, I drive it almost every day too.
I went on a Facebook site called Greenville Watch. There were comments galore from the people picking up their kids, dropping off, saying either we need a roundabout there or we need a 4-way stop. It's horrendous. I travel it twice a day, maybe anymore, I've almost been hit once a week.
Yeah.
Either I slammed my brakes on, Monday night I came up here to a meeting, a woman coming off of Oak Street. I came from, you know, downtown. Boom, she was this close to hitting me. I don't tell you how many times this has happened to me. Pick up your kids after school, drop them off after school, and have to use that intersection. Plus, watching the crossing guard run across the street. There's no reason our crossing guards should have to put up with that.
Anna is the crossing guard there.
Yeah.
She comes in for coffee every day, talks to Jane, complains all the time about how dangerous it is on that corner, not only for her, but for the kids.
Yes.
So it's a big issue.
People can learn to adjust. At one time, 40 years ago, Jim, we had one school.
Yeah,
Now, we have an elementary, we have a middle school.
yep.
We have major traffic now compared to 40 years ago.
40 years ago, we had a stop sign at Nash, and Maine didn't have a stop sign. Do you remember this, years ago? I personally, as an adult, have almost been hit riding my bike on this intersection. Driving, I've almost hit kids, because when you come to the south and you're turning, you're always kind of keeping an eye on what's going on to the left here, but as you come around that corner, that crosswalk is so far in, you can't see those kids until you're right on top of them. And
Yeah.
I just think that intersection needs some attention.
It's
And
also
actually,
a
one of our
walking
officers approached me and said, is there something you can do as a board member about this intersection?
There's also a kid walking past, so they have something called the walking bus program at school where the kids meet at around Bethlehem, and you've got 20 kids that are walking that path. That's a lot of kids to cross that path to have a scary intersection. And with summer rec program, and you throw all those things in, that's a busy spot.
But, I mean, but you're still making the same argument, that we have all this other traffic and all these other people, we still don't have accidents.
Not yet, but are you gonna be responsible when the first person gets run over by a car? Cause I don't wanna be.
That doesn't, just because you have an intersection, doesn't mean you have to make every intersection a four-way stop. If there isn't a problem, if there isn't an accident problem, there isn't necessarily we have to fix it.
Explain that to people in Grand Chute with 42 roundabouts that didn't need to be there because the stop lights were perfectly sufficient.
Oh,
Explain to me why 47 in Northland is the roundabout that it is, because I'm telling you, it's the same argument. Roundabouts are put in so that people still get in accidents, but they are at slower speeds, so they're not critical accidents. You're gonna have the same issue. So if people are gonna get hit or potentially hit, at least it's at a lower speed so that, because they're coming off a stop, so they have time to react. It's the same argument, just looking a different way. And I'm sorry, if it was my kid, I'd be really, really upset if my kid's walking, because that's a path my kids could walk from school. Because mine have to walk from school where we live. I'd be really upset if there wasn't a four-way stop there and my kid got potentially crushed.
You'd be upset if there isn't a four-way stop anywhere and your kids get hit. I mean, anybody would. It's not
This is a
there isn't
very
a four-way stop at
difficult-
your intersection anymore.
This
Nathan, what
is
do
a
we
very
need to
And if there's an
difficult-
accident.
What do we need to do to
Yeah,
get,
let's move
Just make
forward.
a
We need to
motion.
take a vote on it.
do we need to make
I
a
don't
motion?
We need a motion
Yeah.
to continue
Oh, yeah.
ahead with the four-way
Yeah.
stop.
I'll make a motion to proceed with, or pursue the opportunity of a four-way stop at the intersection of Nash and Oak in the village of Hortonville.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Right?
Okay. Motion carried. HR 22-21, resolution amending facade loan program.
This is a program that's been around in the village, I think since early 90s. Basically, the village has allocated funds to the Economic Development Committee to give these facade loans out to update businesses' facades, basically. The update just kind of clarifies a few things, and I think the main thing that it clarifies is the financial payback and the interest that compounds. Before it didn't necessarily state it was compounding, so some people, when there was turnover between different people doing them, we had some people at a steady 2% when they paid it back, or 2.5% when they paid it back. and some was compounded. So depending on who you were at the time, you might have a compounding one, you might not.
And some were zero.
Right, so basically, this makes it clear that it's compounding interest, after the 4th year, but I think if you wanted to amend it, maybe it'd be better to do 5th year, 5 years of no interest. That gives the business 60 months to pay it back. If it's a $12,000 loan, that's $200 a month. That's a reasonable thing. The goal is to incentivize them to pay this back as soon as possible, so we can reallocate the funds elsewhere if needed. It's part of the revitalization of the downtown for the most part, but any business in the village can apply for it.
It's only for the external facade?
Correct.
Okay. Is it, how much is this used?
Not much right now.
Okay.
I think part of it is it's not as known in the community. I do have one business owner who's about to own 2 businesses downtown that wants to utilize this. And he's asked about it a few times, so I'm planning on meeting with him soon.
Do you see once that Main Street is being I see this being something that.
Right, so
We sell.
in our TID 5, we've allocated $100,000 to add to this fund to help revitalize that downtown corridor.
So it makes sense to clean this up right now, and
For the most part,
then
yeah.
it's set to go.
Yeah,
Do you have any say in like what they
no.
do?
Currently, what you have a say in is, right now, no. You could change that if you wanted to. Frankly, I think the Economic Development Committee has 2 board members. You have a say in it, you're a board member on that committee, and Jeannie is. Other than that, there's a member from Industrial.
They asked a single thing for that committee.
Right.
There you go.
But there's also a downtown zoning code that there are certain,
Right.
there's certain aesthetics that
Well, that's kind of my question,
Oh.
right? Because I don't want it to be rainbows and
No,
unicorns
yeah.
and butterflies everywhere.
we have a
you
color
know?
palette.
That's what, that's
in
I guess
that
my
downtown zoning
question.
code, yes.
That's my
Well, I
question.
guess it depends. If you're not in the downtown,
And I'm asking that because I think our goal when we were discussing the downtown,
Yeah.
thing, I mean, nothing against the rainbow palette because my daughter's in love with it, but I just think that I thought our goal was with the downtown was to try to make it kind of this cohesive
it is.
thing when we redo it, right?
So the downtown zoning code does have it, it's traditional brick facades for the
Okay.
most part.
Okay.
Or wood, there's a color
Right.
palette, there's certain types of signage, there's size requirements,
Okay.
there's a certain aesthetic we were going for, and the Historical Preservation Committee was a big part of that,
Okay,
trying to keep that vibe throughout the downtown, so that you don't get the
yeah, I just don't want someone painting rainbows and unicorns and,
The only exception to that is,
Elves
and if somebody
everywhere.
could be grandfathered if they owned the property prior to the zoning code going in, and I don't know how many of those are,
They're grandfathered with it current.
yeah,
They can't update it to say that they can do whatever they want.
correct.
So if they updated the facade, they need to have,
follow the guidelines.
So a red, white, and blue building downtown
That's my point.
right now would not be able to be
Repainted
repainted
red, white, and blue.
red, white, and blue.
Okay.
It would have to be, yeah.
That's exactly my point.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's
I
for-
do think that we need to change number 8 though, where this is basically approved by the Economic Development Committee and not, coming to this board for anything.
I guess I would disagree, just because of the way that the Economic Development Committee should operate. Otherwise, there's no point to have them.
Well, basically,
because-
there's probably 3 people on this committee and the rest are void.
Well, because it
And-
hasn't
and
met in
so-
2 years. Yeah,
It's
But-
always an issue to get someone on a committee.
right, but this one is actually one that you have had your administrators find the people and then they talk to the president. It's not something that you are in charge of finding necessarily. It's usually, that's how we've done it in the past in 2018 when we had our last appointment.
Yeah,
So-
because it's me and a trustee, which is Shauna, and a financial institute, that one's okay, but as far as the chamber one, that's no longer. The industrial business, I understand she wants out. The small business, we're not sure of. Billy's resident, we're not sure of. So we basically need to keep this up constantly, even though it isn't something that we meet real often.
Right.
But if we need this committee,
Well, no different than
Then-
historic preservation, we sort of decided that there wasn't a need right now, but once we need that need, we have that in the statutes to do
yeah.
so.
And so really, this has to be looked at probably every 6 months to be sure these people are still on here.
Right.
Or wanna be, you know, if we're gonna not involve the board.
Then
Right.
you'd be active there, Shauna. You'd be active on that.
Sweet. There's a spelling error on here too, if you
No,
don't care, but.
no,
Do I have finial? Finial?
no.
Finial. They have to do the finial inspection. I'm sorry, I don't think this wasn't.
So when Peter gets back, we would need a motion then to approve R-22-21.
Do we need Peter?
Can I ask a question real quick?
Already
Isn't
approved.
Peter one of the facade loan, does he need,
He paid it.
he paid it, so he can vote on this?
Yeah, it wouldn't affect it.
It wouldn't affect,
Right.
okay, then never mind.
Yeah, anyone who's had it, it wouldn't affect it.
No, I thought it was a current, so,
Yeah.
sorry.
Even the current ones, it's not gonna affect, because we can't go back and say that now you're gonna be paying interest on compounded. So the way that those were set up with the mortgage notes at the time, that's how we have to allow it.
Mhm.
So it's just going forward, it's shown to the business owner, and it's stressed the point of trying to get them to pay it back quicker.
Yeah.
So I guess if you are gonna do a motion, I guess if you wanted to change it from four years to 5 years interest free, that might be an idea, and then I guess if you wanted to have it come back to the board prior to authorization, that's another option as well.
Is everyone okay with how Nathan has this set up, or do we wanna change it?
I'm okay with it. So Nathan, do you need a motion type of thing?
We would need a motion.
So to approve the change, that we need a motion a second and then a majority.
Just trying to figure out how to make the motion.
Well, you passed R-22-21. If you wanna extend it to a 5-year interest free, you can say that in there as well.
Okay, then, correct me here if I'm saying this incorrectly. I'll make a motion to approve R-22-21, the resolution amending R-1-6, the facade loan program, extending the no interest to 5 years as presented.
Well, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. I, any other miscellaneous topics for future discussion? If there are none, we will move to 10, report of village officials.
And my report was in the packet. Don't have anything to add.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Jane? Okay, if not, we'll move to, we're messed up with the letters. Nathan, you're listed as one, as A.
Angie,
Andrew, he got double time
yeah,
this week.
I don't know why, I asked Jan about that.
Oh,
I don't know.
okay.
I
well,
wanna hear it twice. I would really like to hear it twice. In fact, say half of it for the first part and then half for the
Director
second.
of Public Works. Craig?
My report also was in your packet. A lot of things going on, obviously, in our departments. So if there is any questions, nothing to truly highlight this time around. Maybe next month I'll have some more highlights to tell you about.
Does anyone have
Good
any
stuff.
questions for Craig? no questions. We will move then to police chief.
My report is also in the packet. We've had a busy month too.
Oh, yeah.
One thing I'd like to add that was not on here is we conducted interviews today for filling the part-time position. We interviewed a total of 6 candidates. 2 of them I think would be a great fit for their department. So our next decision is to make a conditional offer for one of the persons, one of the officers. One thing I would like to do is I would like to schedule a public safety meeting to discuss the reports. I've come up with some reports.
Jim, when will you be able to have a meeting?
It's all about you, Jim. When can you fit us in your schedule?
Yeah, good question. Okay, so.
We know this is not a good month.
Yeah.
Because next month's gonna be better.
Yeah, next month's gonna be way
Worse.
better. I'm gonna have to look at my schedule. I'll send out an email.
I'm hoping sometime next week, maybe we can come up with something. Because I have a couple questions concerning the potential for part-time. I just have some questions. So before I move forward, I would like to discuss a little bit more.
Or we can do it at another board meeting, at the next board meeting, I guess.
For 2 weeks.
Are you gonna be at the next board meeting, Jim?
When is the next board?
Do you-
18th.
18th?
18th.
Or are you leaving for Jim?
That's the
No,
Thursday
I
before
should be.
gun hunting.
Yeah,
Well, hunting
no.
starts the 20th, so 2 days before.
Next Thursday.
Then she told you your schedule,
You
man.
obviously
You have
don't
no
know.
choice. Well, I know, buddy.
Just pointing out.
No, I will not be at the next board meeting.
Okay, Jim won't be at the next board meeting, so we have to have this probably next week.
Thursday's the only day it don't work for me, Jim. Don't work for me.
Doesn't work. Okay.
So now we're working on your schedule.
Yeah, well, I don't have everything on my calendar, so unfortunately I still have to
Send
send
an
out
email.
Okay, so send us an email on that.
Yeah. I will keep, no, Thursday, and I'll talk to Shauna first and see what we can work out for between our schedules and what's available. Since we're the 2 that are,
I have a babysitter all next week, so
oh, you do? Okay, then it's just me. All right.
the best night would be Tuesday for me.
Tuesday, I can't do Tuesday at all. That's why I said I'll send out, I'll give you a call and we'll walk through it, because my schedule is crazy.
Okay, we'll wait for an email. Are there any questions for Chris? Okay, will we move to library director?
My report was not in the packet. I'm working on getting better at deadlines. We have done over 3,200 craft kits so far this year. We've been keeping a tally. A lot of businesses in the valley have been donating things to put in the craft kits, as well as baskets that we've been raffling off. So we've been pretty busy with that. We are resuming story times slowly. Next week, Wednesday, we have a member of the American Legion coming to read a story for Veterans Day, and then our current craft kit involves a thank you for veterans, that if they bring their coloring sheet back, they can get a mini flag that was donated by the Legion Post 55. We have 2 story times a week from next Wednesday, kind of centered around Thanksgiving. But with sharing the room with the meal site, we're limiting it to the number of kids that can attend for that one. And we are actually having registration, but we cut it into 2 separate story times. So we're trying to, have as many people as we can. Hopefully beefing up our story time with number of story times in the spring. I'm attending the Wisconsin Library Association Conference in a couple weeks. It's a 3-day long conference up in Green Bay. And I have been distributing some of the daily duties to more of the part-time employees to give me more time to do like long-range planning and things that have been put on the back burner while I've been working the desk shifts. So we finally have a full staff, and I'm able to jump back into more of my administrative roles, which is very exciting.
Are there any questions for Ally?
Keep the crap kids love them.
Yeah, that's all Dana. She's been fantastic with it. Yeah.
Anything else? Okay, we'll move to F, attorney.
Nothing.
Okay, and now administrator.
Reports in the packet. Other than that, been doing a lot of, we've been doing site visits on certain businesses in the area, figuring out, trying to see how they're doing, I guess, through the time, and then try to figure out, if there's anything we can do, any programs we have that might help them. So we went through Global Fab the other day, got a tour of the facility, talked to him for a while on how his whole business operates, and got some good background there. And probably gonna try to continue to do that once a month at least, to see one of the industrial park businesses and see how they're doing. So, outside of that, just a lot of meetings with the Fox City Chamber on potential future there or not, so, for the municipalities in the area.
Any questions for Nathan?
You showed up on my Facebook feed along with the article.
No, no.
Okay, we'll, building permit report, there is none in the packet. 11, communication and miscellaneous business, Black Otter Lake District News, and Pat is out tonight. B, Hortonville, Hortonia Fire District News. Nothing. C, Gold Cross Ambulance Run reports and news is in the packet. D, Hortonville Civic Association. Peter?
0.
And C, E, Senior Activities Committee, and Pat is not here. Okay, 12 is comments and suggestions from citizens present. Hello,
John Marshire, thanks for having me, that's it.
thanks for coming.
I won't repeat myself for the 17th
Don't forget sign.
And then we will go to, did you have any comments? No?
Can you introduce
Okay.
yourself? What's your name again?
Alicia Thurn.
Hi, Alicia.
Okay, and then we will go to 13, motion to go into closed session.
Julie?
I'll make a motion to go into closed session, or state statute 19.851C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility.
I'll second that.
Roll call.
Aye.
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 Okay, then we will need 5 minutes recess to clear the meeting room. Okay, then, any action on matters discussed in closed session? There's none. 18, I would need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Wait a minute. Thanks for interrupting.
Do I have a second?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Gosh sakes.
I already made the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are now adjourned.
Opposed?
You had